Howdy, 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 my name's Anachi Sasuke, and welcome back to Spooky Scary Skeletons, the novella. In the last episode, we were reading about yet another instance of SCP-01, this time being the destruction of the sun or something. And it's written it's written more like a scary story than it is a, actual file. So the first thing we got was, a conversation between a lady and somebody else about, how they were handling the sun having just killed most of the planet. And this is a revision. Object Class Apollyon. Special Containment Procedures, no changes submitted, information collapsed. Description, no changes submitted, information collapsed. Access granted. They've just been sitting out there this entire time, calling out to us, begging for us to come outside. The noise drew in more of them. There's this one mass that I'm sure must have a few dozen people and God knows how many animals rolling around in it. Screams and bleats and screeches and howls non-stop. Louder than all hell! The worst ones make this disgusting moaning like they're actually enjoying it. They're not going to leave so long as they know we're down here. We've managed to talk one of the D's into going out, see if he couldn't draw them away. He was surprisingly okay with the plan. All he asked for was a gun and a single round. He made it out there and one got a hold of him, tried to get his mask off. He managed to work the pistol up beneath his chin in time, got it off. I figured he was lucky. After he fell limp, though, it got working at his suit, pried off the hood, poured itself inside, began tearing it off him from within. He came back, started changing, dripping out of the suit, and screaming and screaming and screaming. They won't even let us die. The director has a plan. There's an escape tunnel hidden in his office. Tram under the site will take us to a safe house. We should be able to start towards 19 from there. Okay. Special containment procedures, no changes submitted. No changes submitted. Oh, video file, but I don't see one. You see her for the first time. Dr. Agoda is seated where you are now. She has a pained look. Her eyes are bloodshot. A large, wet, red-black splotch has formed on her breast pocket. She draws a shuddering breath, parts her lips as if to speak, and stops herself. She bows her head and cries silently. After a minute, she manages to choke out, The tunnel flowed in through the ceiling, dragging them into the light and ripping off their clothes. She reaches into her breast pocket and withdraws a finger. The glint of a wedding ring is visible above the severed portion. She holds it close in cupped hands and runs a thumb over the glimmering band. She sits like this for an eternity, whispering apology after apology, begging forgiveness, lost in the moment. She looks up after some time. There's a look of realization when she sees she's still recording, before she places the digit back in her pocket. She leans forward as if to turn off the camera when a radio crackles to life. It broadcasts white noise for a few seconds, and then a voice that sets you on edge. Logan? It's Ari, almost. Her voice has taken on the disgusting gurgling tone characteristic of the affected. Logan's jaw drops. What little color that was left in her face drains. It speaks out again. Where are you? Why can't I get back inside? Are you there? Logan rummages beneath the desk for a moment and produces a handheld radio. Her hands are shaking. The thing implores her. Its inhuman speech curdles your stomach. Babe, it's alright. I'm alright, really. It's a bright, sunny day and you're just wasting away down there. Logan is in tears, her finger hovering just above the call button. The Ari thing draws a deep, wet breath and speaks. Such a beautiful, clear blue sky, just like that day. Do you remember, babe? Logan withdraws a cigarette with her free hand, followed by a pack of matches. Her shaking thwarts the first two attempts to light it. She swears silently. The third time's the charm machine hails a quarter of it in a single drag. The Ari thing continues. It was so perfect. Everything was how I'd always dreamt it would be. You planned exquisitely. I'd never felt so in love. Logan begins rocking back and forth. You even had the band play our song. It starts singing. I don't know what the song is. Logan hurls the radio across the room. It smashes somewhere off camera. It's still somewhat operational. You can still hear the thing singing. More voices join in the chorus as the radio slowly loses life. A dozen, then more. They continue singing until the radio mercifully dies. Logan rushes out of her chair and you can hear her vomiting off screen. The video films the empty seat for several minutes before she returns to end the feed. Something isn't right. A lingering paranoid sensation washes over you. You're being watched. You defensively dart your eyes about, though they take a second to adjust to the darkness beyond the monitor. The emergency light sweeps across the room, stretching and twisting the shadows beyond recognition. That's when you spot it. There in the corner, coming out of the puddle, time slows to a halt. A pair of hands, coated in the lustrous black slime you followed through the facility, are on either side of the sickening pool, as if something beneath the floor is bracing itself, trying to lift itself up. Something inhuman. The head comes next, rising from the muck. Matted hair conceals its face, plastered over it by the mystery fluid. It turns in your direction. It stares at you from the corner, which once again falls into darkness. The emergency light continues its journey across the room. It washes over the puddle again, revealing nothing out of the ordinary. Access this revision. Nothing's happened. Dr. Agoda appears on the monitor. She's lost weight. Her eyes are bloodshot and wide. On the table before her lay a knife, a bowl, and a stack of manila envelopes filled with yellow pages. Atop this stack is a blood-stained parchment. Despite the things we have to deal with here at the Foundation, I've always believed we would be able to maintain control. We would hold the darkness at bay, let mankind flourish in the light. Site 19 stopped broadcasting last month. It's been getting harder and harder to find a reason to keep going, especially without... She grabs the knife, contemplates it for a moment. I keep going over it again and again in my head, that day back in the tunnels, everything that happened. I've gone down there a few times, if only to hear her voice again. But it's wrong. That thing on the other side of the door, it isn't her. Not anymore. It sounds like her. It knows everything she knew, but it's not her. The light, it takes your body. It steals your mind. But what about your soul? With this, she slices into the palm of her left hand and winces. You watch her clench the fist, draining her blood into the bowl. If this works, if I can bring back something the light couldn't reach, I'll post an update here. For now, signing off. Okay. Revision updated 985 days ago. Item hurts. I'll apologize. It's so warm out there. Special containment procedures. SCP-01 should not be contained. Survivors of the SCP-01 event stationed within secure facilities can never truly be with one another. Personnel are encouraged to get over themselves and stop thinking they know better. You can't hide down here forever, love. Personnel exposed to SCP-01 aren't people you can just abandon. I didn't ask for you to save me. It wasn't your choice to make. Euthanization is not to be attempted. Conductive electrical weapons, why, have proven partially effective at immobilizing instances. You couldn't stand seeing me better off. Incendiary weapons tickle. Cryonic munitions are the most effective thus far. Personnel stationed at Site 19 have no regrets. Neither did I. It's never too late, babe. Description. SCP-01 is the designation given to the sun after we finally became free. The effects are instantaneous, resulting in release from all suffering until you ripped me away. These changes seem scary, I know. Despite the restructuring, at no point will you die. I promise. Due to their composition, instances of SCP-01A that make contact with one another may combine and blend and finally exist. This does not cause any pain. Since the SCP-01 event, most instances have congregated into such collectives, which seem to possess no maximum volume. The resulting biomass is beautiful. The component organisms will shift in and over and around and through and in and out and in and out and in. Limbs and bodies hold, never letting go. All as one, before deteriorating and being subsumed by another life form. Collective instances will locomote by just trying to get close to you again, trying so hard. Let me in. Let me go back. There's a video file attached. Opening it, you can see that it presents the room you're in. The feed seems to be coming from one of the security cameras up in the corner of the room. It's dark, but you can just make out Dr. Agoda. Agata? Probably Agata. Laying on a pile of laundry along the far wall. She's writhing in her sleep. She seems tormented. Hurt. She's tossing and turning and mumbling nonsense words. The camera shakes. It lifts upwards for a moment before it focuses on her again. It starts moving closer. Slowly. The speakers come to life, picking up an airy, breathy static. As the camera moves closer to the doctor, it becomes clearer, crisper. It's not merely white noise, but dozens, hundreds of voices whispering unintelligibly over each other. You lean in, press your ear almost against the speaker, trying to discern what it is that's being said. Something strange stands out amidst the discordance. Are you paying attention? This next bit is just for you. You're not quite sure what to make of it, though. Looking back at the monitor, the camera has come to a halt inches from the sleeping doctor. The voices stop. There's no sound. A hand, black and oily and skeletal, reaches out for her, brushes away a lock of hair. Her eyes shoot open. She recoils in shock. The feed cuts out. Access file. File recovered from previous revision. Information collapsed. File recovered from previous version. Information collapsed. Dr. Agata appears before you on the screen, looking even worse for wear than she did previously. Her hair is thinning, with large swaths appearing absent from the middle of her head. If they weren't reflecting the soft glow of the monitor, you would have assumed she no longer had eyes, for how deep they'd recessed into her skull. She stares ahead, unblinking. She won't stop. She won't go away. I know I didn't pick up an info hazard browsing the archives. Tested myself for minus 4673 infection, negative. Minus 5189 is the only one that uses print as a vector. Can't be that. I still have all my fingers. Her lips crack into a broken grin. She lets out a weak laugh and displays her trembling hands. What appears to be the mostly skeletal remains of a finger is embedded into the flesh of her left hand, in the stump that would have supported her natural ring finger. Two wedding bands loosely encircle the digit, laying atop one another. So I'm not infected. I'm not crazy. I know the ritual worked. I know it's really her. It's her, and she. Something catches her attention off screen. She cocks her head, listening. No, I can't. You're not you, not the same. Not you. It's not you anymore. Nope. She begins rubbing her temples, repeating herself over and over again. A minute passes. She snaps her head back up and addresses the camera. It's her, but it's not. What I brought back? Still part of O1. There's no way out. No way. There's no hope for a future for me. And God, I can't go on like this any longer. I'll be safe here. The light can't reach me. I won't let it take me. She brandishes a handgun. Was planning on using this till I found some leftover meds. Don't want to risk calling attention to myself, to my body. She opens the desk drawer and deposits the firearm. She raises her gaze, stares into the camera. Mom, Dad, Ari, I'm sorry. She reaches forward and ends the recording. That's horrible. You open the drawer and pull out the gun. You absentmindedly turn it over in your hands for a moment, wondering where you'll go from here. Site 17? 64? Surely you can't be all that's left. The computer dings. There's been an update to the file? Is it doing the song? Saffron skies raise the blazing sun. A chance encounter, awkward displays. One day, my love, we'd be as one. I feel like this is a song. Is it something sunshine? Good day, sunshine? Let me see if I can find the song I think this is. Let's see, YouTube. Is it Good Day, Sunshine? Good Day, Sunshine? I'm not sure. Or is this the karaoke? Well, that is a beer commercial. Okay, I think it has a karaoke version. Let's see.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Good day, sunshine. Good day, sunshine. Good day, sunshine.
I need to laugh, and when the sun is out, I got something I can laugh about. I feel good in a special way. I'm in love and it's a sunny day.
Good day, sunshine. Good
Well,
day, sunshine.
That was a reference to the song I thought it was.
Good day, sunshine.
We take a walk, the sun is shining down.
But
Where's my feet feet as they touch the ground.
Okay, that's enough Beatles, thank you. Without prompting, the page begins playing a video file. You freeze when the image loads. It's a live feed looking down on you from behind about a foot away. A skeletal, inky left hand enters the frame, approaching you at a snail's pace. It's missing its ring finger. Without a second thought, you turn and fire in a frenzy, hoping to drive off the specter. Your bullet meets an empty wall. There's nothing there. A second passes before you hear it. Before you hear them. Sloshing, wet thuds coming down the corridor, accompanied by a chorus of screams. It slams into the door. Could there be a place to hide? It strikes a second time. What appears to be a face, part human, part something, dribbles in under the frame. Bits of flesh from God knows what oozes in through the sides and reconstitutes into fingers, eyes, feathers. A third. Now it's pressing up against the wood, causing it to sag inwards. With a groan and a crash, the wood splinters. The door explodes open. Hands and arms and stretch out of the mass, pulling you up, passing you from one to the next, on and on down the line. They drag you past the empty containment units, upwards and through the stairwell, through the halls and towards the tunnel. You're afforded a few precious moments in the darkness, and at the end of the tunnel, there is light. Okay then, so that one is Death by Sun. Now let's backtrack. We gotta do Broken God, Past and Future, and the Consensus. But Broken God is long. Let's see. So let's submit those credentials. I believe that I didn't do this one yet. Yeah, I didn't do this one yet. Information on the relevancy of SCP-01 to the related anomalous objects are to be omitted from the respective objects documentation. While connections with the Church of the Broken God remain available, the origins of the items are to be omitted or obfuscated. The inactive component of SCP-01 is to remain in its current location, and any shipping or diving is forbidden in that area. Civilian discovery of it is to be suppressed, and amnestics are to be utilized. Why is amnestics the word they're using? Amnestic use. Amnestic. Okay, so the first thing it brought me to was some SCP stuff, so I feel like amnestic's not a real word, even though the dictionary tried to say it. Are to be utilized in order to maintain classification. Persons affiliated with the Church of the Broken God who make active attempts to seek out the inactive component of SCP-01 are to be taken into Foundation custody and questioned. Information pertaining to SCP-01, whether physical or digital, is to be confiscated and contained. The inactive component of SCP-01 is expected to remain inanimate. However, should it experience spontaneous reanimation, all active mobile task force units at nearby Site 27, 44, 90, and 101 are to be assigned to active countermeasures. Should this event, currently designated in 001 Apotheosis event, occur in the modern world, it is believed that current means of information suppression will be insufficient. It is likely that a 001 Apotheosis event would risk an SK-class Broken Masquerade scenario, and likely following that, an XK-class End of the World scenario. Extant active components of SCP-01 are not to come within 20 kilometers of the inactive component of SCP-01 under any circumstances. Description: SCP-01 is a collection of anomalous items, formerly a single massive mechanical entity assembled by members of the Church of the Broken God in late 1942 near La Paz, Mexico. Items include SCP-217, SCP-1139, and SCP-882, and several internal components of SCP-629. A full list is available here. We're not going to go there, though. Okay, we can't even go there. Hey! Members of the Church combine the various anomalous objects in an effort to restore their deity. Upon activation, SCP-01 reportedly began to integrate metallic objects into itself while actively seeking other anomalous objects. SCP-01 and the resulting 001 Apotheosis event that took place as a result of its assembly was the cause of significant environmental changes in western Mexico and required one of the most widespread use of amnestics to date. Post-event, the active components of SCP-01 were taken to Foundation sites for containment, while the inactive component of SCP-01 remained on the bottom of the Gulf of California, approximately 23.807269 by 101.418369. Let's see where that is. search. Well, it seems to be done loading, so let's go to maps. Okay. Zoom out a little bit more, a little bit more. Little bit more. Where's the rest of the world? What is this? Okay, so it's right there. And for some reason, that's just nothing on map because water. Okay, so now we know where that is. Also, that's trippy. Addendum 001.01. Transcript of statement by Father Jorge Castillo, and August 1945. Ferdinand was the first, I think, the first to contact me after they found the heart. The way they described it, the fervor that was in their eyes, it captivated me, and I knew that they had done it. I went to meet with Anthony and, or would it be Anthony? Anthony, and Salvador, the weekend after my sister's confirmation. When they showed it to me, I was taken aback. It was little more than a pile of gears, pistons, ticking pieces of clockwork, and lubricated metal parts, all dutifully turning along without a power source. Within it I saw the heart just as they described. It spoke to me. Not like you and I would speak to each other, but with images and feelings and pain. It was in so much pain. Like the spark that had given it life had made it realize what it was, or what it wasn't, and it desired only to be whole again. Desire is a strong word, perhaps. Not desire, more than it was impulse. Something within the creature drove it forward towards something unthinking, some unthinking, unfaltering end. The creature they presented to me was not like the other artifacts I had found and blessed. This one was different. There was something wrong with it, and I did not know until later what they had done. I begged Salvador to take it back to that beach and undo it. What beach that is? Oh, SCP-2217. We'll get to that eventually. Maybe. If I can make it through 2,200 of these things before October, then I will. But I doubt it. At this rate. But they would hear nothing of it. It started moving before I left, shaking enough from side to side that it could achieve locomotion. It hobbled over a wrench, and the wrench became part of its body. They said to me, "Our God is unbroken!" I never saw them again. Except from an interview with Francis Bollinger in 1946. It didn't use words or any kind of language. It would make metallic sounds, but at the same time, images and concepts would come to mind when we were around it. Have you ever felt when you have a thought or idea, and it's all there, born whole in your mind, you still had to think the words for it, despite knowing the sentiment before you finished the sentence? It was like that, but from an alien mind, truly the words of the divine. Excerpt from a 2007 interview with Trixie Silva, agent of the Unusual Incidents Unit, or UIU. There were a few wolves. Wait, you know what those are, right? They're like hunters. They work for the Horizon Initiative. They confronted us near a church in Santa Margarita, wanted us to turn in the stuff that we collected for the Church of the Broken God, like the Abrahamic stuff we handed over. We deliberated on whether we should give it to them. Our stance with the HI has been a bit shaky, more so in recent memory. While we have been on good terms with the local broken churchgoers, the wolves were are more aggressive. We looked over what we had, and while we did, this woman walked up. I don't know where she came from. She dressed like a hippie, thin, iron chains for hair, but she seemed distant the whole time. The look in her eyes, her abnormal smile, like she was hardly there. She looked at what we had, and she only wanted this. I don't actually know what it was. A metal box. It whirred and clicked and put out this little beam of light on one end when I picked it up. It felt lighter than I would have thought. I asked why that was important to her, and she said it'd be easier to show me than tell. She closed her eyes and bowed her head. She didn't move or speak after that, so I closed my eyes as well. She brought her forehead to mine, but kind of offset. We stood like that for a moment. Foi muito estranho. What the fuck does that mean? Before she suddenly moved her chin down and made me jerk down slightly. The fuck does that mean? Okay, I guess Google's not going to tell me what that means. English English translation. What that? It means felt quite strange. Okay then. The world dropped beneath me and I fell. Something clicked in my mind, an image of two gears formerly meshed together, now broken away. I felt the teeth of my spine arched as I bent over. One step and I clicked along on the multidimensional cog that was the planet. It spun around the furnace of the sun, tethered to it by the chains that was gravity, and we hurtled together through the oily cosmos with all the power of an infinitely unwinding spring. Sorry. It was an experience. No, it was not a religious experience, but yeah. She told me to pick the box back up, and it felt a lot heavier than before. I couldn't tell if it actually had more weight or if it felt more significant. I gave it to her and wouldn't hear anything otherwise from the wolves or my teammates or my superior. Addendum 001.02. Interview with excommunicated Church of the Broken God Priest Father Dolores Randall, June 1945. Extraneous dialogue removed. Okay. Alright, you mentioned the heart earlier. Were you there when they found it? No, not at all. I was out of the country at the time, working with a new mission in Panama. I only heard about Ezekiel after the fact. Who was Ezekiel? One of the, Bumaro's agents. Before he was made leader of the church, Robert would keep a number of them around. These individuals who were in tune with God and could feel its presence, speak to it. Ezekiel had discovered an artifact of some value, and Bumaro took him on afterwards. These agents were the first to experiment with augmentations as well. As you can imagine, many of them died. But not Ezekiel. No, he was very close to Bumaro, and I don't know if he would have risked Ezekiel's well-being. It doesn't matter. Ezekiel didn't need augmentations to speak to the god. He was just capable. So what does Ezekiel have to do with the heart? You heard Avery tell you that they had a stockpile of artifacts, right? Anything that one of these agents touched, if they felt something, they would have it shipped to La Paz with the rest of it. Most of it was worthless, but every now and then they would find something legitimate. The purifier, the one, whatever you call it, one of the agents discovered that near Nepal. They had tendons and ligaments and everything else, but they were all just parts. They would move on their own, but they didn't do anything together. How do you mean? The text referred to the god reassembling itself once the pieces are brought before its heart. All you need to do is feed the heart of a limb, and the god will have a limb. But they couldn't find a heart. There were a couple of agents who had claimed to have found one, but they were all the same useless piece of machinery as the rest. Where does Ezekiel figure into this? Ezekiel was the one who told Bumaro that if they could not find a heart, maybe they could build one of their own. This, at the time, flew directly in the face of the church doctrine. The leadership, if they had known, would have excommunicated him. But it was quickly becoming clear that the project couldn't last through to the summer. I was sent in with my mission to resupply them after Ezekiel had left, and their supplies were nearly exhausted. Our records indicate that the heart was something they discovered. Is that not true? Of course it isn't true. You can't preach to a congregation about God giving parts of himself to you and then turn around and tell them that the most essential part is something you conjured up out of nothing. Worse than nothing, though. The details of what they did to create that heart and make it live were never revealed to me, but you can draw conclusions from evidence. There was a drought that year, and the polio crisis hit an all-time high. Thousands died of all of natural causes. A freak event never accurately recorded because of the attention on the war. Dios mío, but who can say? You think the two are related? I think the timing is too coincidental, and knowing what I know about what that thing became, I think the answer is clear. That was not the Heart of God, Agent. That was something altogether different. Addendum 001.3. Video recovered from local documentary film crew. Shot begins on a destroyed home, the wreckage centered around the garage. Metal fragments and strips of rubber trail down the driveway and onto the asphalt, and go down the street. Pieces of various automobiles are strewn across the street and sidewalk. The trail leads to SCP-01, which is integrating a truck into its chassis. SCP-01 continues to the nearest house, where it begins consuming the gutters. Residents of the area flee the scene, several injured by discarded shards of glass and twisted metal discharged by SCP-01. Lights produced from various parts of its body focus on the various prone figures. A section along the undercarriage of it alters and drops away from the main body, which continues down the street in search of more sources of material. The ejected subsection continues alterations, forming a vertical pod somewhat resembling a human spine and ribcage. A pod collapses in various areas, the rib-like protrusions extending outward as the rest of the pod changes into a humanoid form, roughly 3 meters tall. Light is produced from the head, which is focused on a nearby civilian. The metal humanoid picks up the civilian, who appears to be dead, and places it into a small chamber between the humanoid's ribs. The ribs vibrate as the humanoid approaches a second civilian, who is attempting to crawl away. She attempts to struggle as the humanoid lifts her and places her inside its chest cavity. The humanoid turns away from the camera to approach a third civilian, and what appears to be the woman's dismembered hand falls to the floor. A growth on the humanoid's back slowly expands as it continues to gather bodies, the body of the humanoid decreasing in size as it does so. By the sixth consumed body, the growth is larger than the humanoid and is unable to continue bipedal movement. The limbs receded to the body and the ribs extend to allow it to scuttle onto the roof of a nearby house. It remains in place for 23 minutes. The bulbous exterior cracks and is torn away from within, revealing 3 humanoids. They each appear to be symptomatic of SCP-217 and exhibit physical characteristics of the 6 captured civilians. One, a female with chains extending from its scalp, shakes another, which appears to be dead. The third, a male with clockwork limbs, examines itself before jumping from the roof, landing on its stomach. It does not appear to be damaged by this, which seems to cause it distress. It then pursues SCP-01, which is consuming another vehicle farther down the street. The female humanoid notices the camera crew. It begins to wave, but quickly stops. It looks towards SCP-01 before jumping into the backyard and out of the camera's view. Addendum 001.04, taped phone conversation with Robert Bumero. Note: the following audio is from a taped phone conversation between an agent of the Church of the Broken God, name unknown, and Robert Bumero. The call was recorded in December of 1942 and was collected by Foundation personnel during a raid on a church stronghold in 1966. Let's see if it actually plays it, then I don't have to talk.
Hello? Bless you, Father. Dimitri? No. Oh, of course. Bless you, child. How is the little lord?
Stronger every day. We had to move him from the back of our office into a warehouse nearby.
He's being fed?
As you required.
Good. When will you be moving to Peñasco?
Within the week. We are only waiting for the next train.
It may need to be sooner. There was a raid in La Paz 2 weeks ago. 3 of our men have not been accounted for. There is a growing Foundation activity nearby.
Father? Father?
Tomorrow.
Father?
Yes. You had expected them to head north, but they come west instead. A minor setback.
What about the safe house? There are nearly 100 other artifacts there, and...
Minor setback. They don't know where it is, and even if they did, that isn't their priority right now. Their eyes, and the eyes of the rest of the world, are in Europe. As their gaze settles there, they will not realize their accomplishment until they are powerless to stop him.
That was, something else I needed to ask you, Father.
Yes?
Our God is ravenous. We cannot seem to satiate him. The supplies we were given are not.
What is the issue?
Father, the Lord is eating its own housing. We cannot convince him to stop. He cannot be reasoned with. It's
nonsense. The heart of the devout may speak directly to our God. Can you not hear his words when he reaches out to you? Do you not feel the machine moving inside of you? Or do you need more proof other than the living, breathing God before your own eyes?
No, Father, it is not that. It is...
I will hear nothing of it. For years we have prayed and asked for our God to be unbroken before us, and now he has presented himself. We know that the divine will speak to the heart of the devout. If you're telling me that there are none among you who are devout enough to commune with our Lord, tell me now so you can be replaced.
Our faith is strong, Father. Please, forgive my insolence. I am only misguided.
See to yourself, then. I worry for your faith. Have one of your brothers, one who is stronger than you. Have him speak to the Lord and tell him the necessity for secrecy. Our Lord will understand, no doubt. The unbroken God is a reasonable God.
Yes, bless you, Father.
Bless you, child.
Well, that was weird. The following is an interview conducted with Foundation Commander Mark Peterson of Site-74. The director, who prior to the 001 Apotheosis event was stationed in Mexico City, was on site with the Foundation personnel in La Paz during the event. Director Cornwell. Start again with the top. We're recording now. Alright. The first reports we got about church activity in Mexico were in 41, but it was all pretty minor at the time. We had just finished field operations near the border up north and were preparing to move our assets to Atlanta for deployment to France. We had just gotten our orders to retrieve a series of sensitive objects that they didn't want to get into the hands of the Krauts, and they were going to move our entire division to get it done. Leadership wasn't sure that Roosevelt would make the call in time to move in enough time for us to blend in with the Americans, so we were going to have to go in separately. The whole thing was a mess. What kept you in La Paz? I was there on accident. One of our trains had taken the overland route to La Paz, probably to pick up some of the armaments we had there. Turns out the train was supposed to head north. So all of a sudden, most of the leadership south of the Rio Grande is in La Paz, which, in retrospect, probably did us a lot of good as far as the overall effort is concerned. When did you first hear about the 001 Apotheosis entity? Ah, Jesus, is that what they're calling it now? The machine, I guess. We first heard through the grapevine of increased activity in the area in... I guess it would have been a little over a year ago. We ended up in La Paz in October of 42, so... yeah, that sounds about right. The first concrete evidence we got that something was wrong was when a train of... refugees? Seems kind of silly to call them that, but I guess that's accurate. They showed up in La Paz near the end of October talking about how their entire town had been mulched. They didn't really elaborate much, they just kept saying, La Máquina, you know, the machine. That's why we were calling it that, by the way. We had no idea what it was supposed to be. What about your first interaction with the entity? Well, the rail stopped moving, if that's what you mean. We got word from the local authorities that there had been an accident up north and that the trains weren't heading to the border anymore. It wasn't a huge issue for us since we could have taken a couple of vehicles and headed east until we hit one of those little towns at the foot of the mountain. Most of them were hooked up to a separate rail line entirely, and we could have gotten out that way, but the big stuff, the stuff that the train had been sent to La Paz for, couldn't just be moved. So we were going to wait it out. Then DeMarco had the bright idea to send a party up the rail line to see where the holdup was, and see what we could do to, to clear it. He led the expedition himself. What happened to Agent DeMarco? You know damn well what happened to him, Bill. For the record. Fine. We didn't hear back from them after 3 days, and we were going to send the rest of the leadership east anyway, so they didn't have to wait. But then after 5 days, one of DeMarco's guys showed up at our camp. Was delirious, talking about the World Eater, and how the rest of the guys had gotten mulched. And they hadn't they? I know it wasn't as big as it ended up, big then as it ended up, but it wasn't something to fuck around with. DeMarco. Are you alright? Yeah. He tried to kill it. He probably knew then what we wouldn't find out until later, that we couldn't contain this thing. There wasn't a hole in the world big enough to put it in, or a box that it wouldn't eat its way out of. But it didn't matter for him, or anyone he went with. The machine didn't care. When did you first see it? December. Once we'd hunkered in, I was already part of an expeditionary team that flew up there to get a good look at it. It was already... I mean, you saw what it did to that side of the country. I've never seen anything that big that could move. It was like a mountain of moving parts blackening the sky as it burnt through whatever it was shoveling to its chest. And it was small then! It was... I don't know. We all had XK event preparation training, but this went above and beyond anything we had trained for. It was inevitability. We knew that we were going to die, and this thing was going to kill us. It was just a matter of when. Addendum 001.06. Collected Foundation Correspondences. Note, the following are excerpts from written correspondences by Foundation personnel stationed at La Paz, recovered from the temporary site in the wake of the 001 Apotheosis event. Names have been omitted. Dear... I don't even know if this will get to you. None of the trains are running, but our commander says that we can still get letters out. I hope it does. I'd like you to read it. The skies down here have been dark for weeks. Smoke from up north every day makes it hard to breathe. They still don't have indoor plumbing here, and nobody but the other guys in our company speak English. We still don't know what we're down here to do either. I keep hearing we're here to fix the rails, but why aren't we going north? Aren't the brakes in the rails up north? A man came into town today with damn near half his face cooked off. He looked like a dead man, didn't respond to anybody. He got towards the middle of town and collapsed. When he finally woke up in the infirmary later, he was delirious, telling a story about how a machine the size of a mountain that spoke to you. Said there were people jumping out of their homes and running just to throw themselves in it. They said they were shredded like jumping under a lawnmower. Then he died, and nobody knows why. The mountains crumbled before our own eyes. We saw a figure rising through the smoke, slow and lumbering but with terrifying momentum. It didn't crawl like a beast or walk like a man, but was propelled forwards by the turning of a million cogs, like an iron centipede. Its body extended upwards into the smoke, higher than we could make out. Within its chest we saw fire like the furnaces of hell. It came to the mountains north of us and did not stop or go around, but went through and devoured them. It reached out with a long pulsing arm, pulled an entire village into its maw. I saw men leaping to their death as their homes were swept away and into the same inferno as the rest. And it howled, not just through the grinding of gears and the churning of the machine, but in our minds. I could hear it in my heart. It was screaming. Directive. Central Command, Site 001. Courtesy of Temp Site lost. La Paz in ruins. Mechanical entity contained. Massive geological alterations. XK avoided. Requesting amnestic support. SCP-01 image recovered post-event and is heavily damaged. Photographer unknown. Yeah. Addendum 001.07. Interview with the GOC Lieutenant Revenant. The following is an excerpt of a post-event interview conducted with GOC Lieutenant codenamed Revenant. The recording of the interview and all transcripts thereof were collected by Foundation agents during a negotiated information exchange in 1992. To date, the identity of Revenant is unknown. There's this story that gets told among Foundation agents. Something the grizzled veterans will tell the Greenhorns during the long nights of guard duty on some cell block or another. I don't know who started it, but I know they still tell it. It's been half a century and they still get it right. You can give them that much credit. They say, "Don't you know? The GOC killed God." But the Greenhorns will say, "No, that's not true. God is in a cell at Site whatever. The GOC didn't kill God." And they're talking about that type green they've got locked up somewhere, the one who thinks he's the Christian God. Then the vets will smile and shake their heads and won't say anything because they all know. They know that in 1943, in the midst of the apocalypse, the Foundation could do nothing but watch the end while the Allied Occult Initiative, a poorly funded, undermanned, inadequate predecessor to the Coalition, saved the world. The metaphorical gun was found on an island off the coast of Greece. I can't even remember what it looked like. All I get is that sort of fuzzy recollection the amnestics leave you with, but I distinctly recall it wasn't as heavy as you'd think. Why the amnestics? I was with a detachment deployed to the area, and apparently one of the pieces had some mind-altering effect to it. I have a vague sense of feeling something wrong, so I'll take their word for it. I don't remember what it looked like. I can't recall how it destroyed that much land. Hell, I barely remember when it happened, and the only reason I know where is all the before and after maps. But I can still feel it in my gut, that wasn't how things were meant to be. We stood before what looked to be an angry and vengeful God, and all it did was beg us to kill it. We were all too happy to oblige. Oh hey, another recording. And also, apparently it's a high-volume recording. Note, the following is a transcript of recovered video footage, roughly 30 seconds in duration. The transcript of the clip was authored shortly after its recovery, though the video has since degraded and is no longer legible. The footage's audio is in acceptable condition and is available for access below. Guess I'd better turn down the volume and brace my ears. Okay, so I think that was the sound of it dying. Addendum 001.09, Neutralization of SCP-01. On July 17, 1943, agents of the Allied Occult Initiative contacted Foundation directors stationed at La Paz, Mexico, and requested assistance with transportation towards the site of 001 Apotheosis entity. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Probably. Foundation operatives moved quickly to dispatch a plane to retrieve the AOI members. After arriving, the agents described a unique anomalous artifact they had in their custody and how it might be used to slow the advance of the 001 Apotheosis entity. 3 days after arriving at La Paz on July 24, 1943, the Allied Occult Initiative dispatched a single agent to the site of the 001 Apotheosis entity, with the anomalous artifact on their person. On the morning of July 25, 1943, as the 001 Apotheosis entity approached the shore of the Pacific Ocean, another massive mechanical construct appeared overhead. The origin of this entity is currently unknown. Records of the event following the appearance of SCP-2399 are incomplete and likely inaccurate. The result of this engagement was the annihilation of SCP-01. SCP-2399 disappeared and was later discovered in low Jupiter orbit in a state of disrepair, though the reason for this is currently unknown. The remaining inactive component of SCP-01, a massive unassembled group of machine parts, remains at the bottom of the Gulf of California. Upon removing SCP-882 from the inactive superstructure, the remainder collapsed and became wholly inert. Following the 001 apotheosis event, a massive amnesticization of individuals in and around the area now known as Baja California took place. These efforts were aided by the quantity of thick black smoke that accompanied SCP-01, and current historical records describe the event as a forest fire. Significant effort was made to adjust maps of the area, as well as relocate displaced civilians. Because of the need for a widespread amnestic regimen, several experimental neurotransformers were used, and because of their poorly understood side effects, it is estimated that no fewer than 2 million people across the world died in the decade following the 001 apotheosis event. Okay, so it sounds like when they used the gun from the sky, or whatever the hell they used to fight the broken god, it nuked off a chunk of the country, and that's why there is now Baja California. Huh. That's an interesting way to look at it. Addendum 001.10, Collected Allied Occult Initiative Documentation. The following document was given to the Foundation personnel by POWI 004D001, see Addendum 001.12. It is currently unknown how the document came to POWI 004D001's possession. Okay. From the Office of the Authority General of the Allied Occult Initiative, Priority Tango 11. I assume that means attention. I don't know. General Darius. Artifact Collection Report. Author, Lieutenant Van Pelt. CO, Colonel Bagram. Report length, 57 pages. Okay, there's not just 57 pages. Okay, cool. Summary of report. On December 30th, 1942, a rogue humanoid entity, anomalous in nature, was sighted on a patrol near a small island off the coast of Greece. This entity, who claimed no name and did not communicate readily in the English tongue, was carrying a small cubic artifact no larger than a baseball. The entity appeared to be feminine and had a number of steel chains extending from its scalp. Entity was originally willing to give up possession of artifact, classified AR-213, but became hostile shortly thereafter and began speaking. Entity made threats on the lives of the squad and subdued 2 officers before being incapacitated by Sergeant Dixon. Entity made reference to the west of the Mexican country, demanding to be freed so that the artifact could be taken there. Further research has uncovered increased SCP Foundation activity in that area, as well as some minor geological disturbances. On the orders of Colonel Bagram, 2nd Platoon was ordered to ship to the site of the disturbance with the entity, classified EN-340, in tow. After boarding the ship bound for America, EN-340 became passive, albeit obviously uncomfortable and disturbed. Recommending further psychological evaluation of EN-340 upon return prior to termination. Once analysis of AR-213 is completed, artifact will be shipped to Zurich for incineration. Report is attached for your consideration. Lieutenant R. Van Pelt, 2nd Platoon, Allied Occult Initiative Peacekeepers. Addendum 001.11. This is going to be a long episode, but when I'm done with this, I'm going to end it. And then the next episode will be, hopefully, the last couple of bits of SCP-01, and then we can finally move on to all the fucking rest of them. So, note, Agent Aaron Ruberson was on site during the collection of SCP-01 artifacts. As the most senior member of Foundation staff assigned to the collection effort, he was required to submit a post-event statement. This report was filed at Site-17 until it was added to the other classified material related to SCP-01. It is unknown whether any other individuals had knowledge of this report or if any copies were made. The following is an excerpt from that statement.
We took what we could from the shores first. Little things, and gears and pulleys and pistons and things like that. A lot of it was garbage, but they were still twitching and spinning and turning. They still had life in them. The small stuff sort of died off after a couple hours, but I heard some of the bigger pieces were still churning weeks later. Like cutting the head off a chicken. The important parts, the ones we knew were actual church artifacts, we managed to bag and get moved to the train in La Paz for transport. I counted, maybe 100 individual anomalous artifacts. Some of the boys at the train station joked they'd have to build a whole new site just to keep it all. We kept casualties low, fortunately. Mostly guys just being dumb around machinery, acting like they still couldn't take their arms off. Rodriguez got his hand crunched, and we had to help move him to the local clinic. I think we only had 1 death the entire time. One of the locals we hired to help dive down through the bay and get straps around the heart so we could pull it up. I didn't see it, but I heard about it. It said they found him with his head smashed between two moving pieces. Said it looked like he shoved it in there himself. But I don't know. I mean, I didn't see it. I did see the tags, though. You know, when a place manufactures something, and in order to identify where the part came from, they'll get a big piece of metal with a name on it and stick it to the side of the part. Well, we saw plenty of those on other parts. The stuff they had collected while it was eating its way to the sea. But none of the church artifacts did, though. They all, buzzed along like everything else, but they weren't marked. You could feel something when standing next to them, like serenity. The whole project felt like that. It felt calm, like relief. Except for the heart. When we finally got it out of the bay, we had to keep it on the shore for a day because of the weather. Some of the locals started to get itchy. Said they was hearing voices and wouldn't go near it. It didn't matter how much money we offered them. I had to wait to bring in more support from the base up north just to get it loaded on a ship. I don't know. I've seen all kinds of things. But my memetic resistance is pretty high. I had to pass a handful of tests just to get this assignment. Everything was clean. But I can't deny getting another kind of feeling around the heart. I don't know if I'd say I was hearing voices, but... Right, the tags. It was as we was leaving and loading it on the ship that was going to take it north that I saw them for the first time. I didn't even think to say anything then. It didn't even pass my mind until I started looking at some of the files. And then that ship crashed in the storm, and they lost the heart. And the whole time, I kept thinking about those goddamn metal tags. I realized it then, I think. That wasn't a church artifact, Johnny. They said property of the factory.
Oh, shit. Addendum 001.12. Interview with POI 004D001. The following is an excerpt from an interview in 2009 with POI 004D001, who claims to be part of a previously unknown sect of the Church of the Broken God. Contact was made with the cooperation of the who had contacted with POI 004D001 as detailed in Addendum 00101. So tell me what you think you know. I see. Interesting. Well, you're not entirely wrong, and that's commendable in this day and age. There are a few key details I feel you may be overlooking, and you may be overvaluing information handed to you by a self-admitting amnesiac. Let me set the record straight. The GLC did not kill Yahweh, as they may so cloudly proclaim, and that was not the broken god they destroyed. It was a piece of it, surely, but you would show me a camshaft and call it a car? Or so you have some parts together, an engine perhaps, but not a car. God is much simpler than that. God is everything, from the biggest star to the smallest particle. Each tiny part's completely insignificant on their own, doing whatever it is they're meant to do, meshing together, gnashing at each other, all part of a cosmic machine. The machine aspect was, at some point, likely simply a metaphor, an idea. But I'm sure, ideas are powerful. They make things from nothing, or change things already there. And with a small spark of the divine, a symbol becomes real. Have a planet with as much life as there is here, you generate a lot of ideas. And you may ask me, why is it called the Broken God? There are a few possible answers. Something as simple as translation issues, reinterpretations made physical by the devout. Is broken simply a poor translation, or some more nuanced word? Was God a being that broke in the Big Bang? If so, why did it break? And what will happen if it's repaired? I can answer none of the questions save the last, but you already know the answer. Whatever God once was doesn't matter ultimately. What matters, to you, is that it must remain as it is. Broken. God knows that. The more powerful parts, the mechanical components, the more conventional sects may label as holy, they know they are not meant to be one solid thing. And even when forced together, a foreign force driving them, they know what they really are. Bits of the monster will work to destroy itself, deploy smaller entities to do the job. The GLC didn't kill it. They took the gun from its own hand and claimed credit when they pulled the trigger. The problem is that humans are too small a part of God to remember. Remember what it was like before. And so those like Boomerang will invent new ways to push us towards a singularity. Because that's what will happen. Did you see the underside of the Destroyer? It was damaged even before the encounter in 43. And if you looked very closely, you might have seen the scars were getting closer and closer to the power core. It even managed to damage whatever lets it slip between the layers of reality this time. Eventually the monster will win. It will destroy the Destroyer, devour it, and with its power, consume everything. And I mean everything. God will return to being one gestalt being, a singularity, and then break. Only this time it may have some outside force within it. The rust of the factory, the blood of a Devite being, the Fifthus, Wondertainment, some random person on the street with enough spark in them to be a reality bender. They will have a hand in remaking the universe and close the secondary loop of all of this. No, that doesn't concern me. It's an eventuality. It's meant to happen. Who's to say it hasn't already happened? And your people were the winner? Maybe humanity itself was the winner. But that doesn't mean I'd be against putting it off, allowing the primary loop to continue. Yes, it's possible. I know you couldn't damage the monster last time, and that the Destroyer may not be able to repair itself by the time it is needed. But who's to say you can't aid it, or mimic those who will seek to rebuild God and acquire outside help? Working together, nothing is impossible. Apart, we're broken, but united, we're God. Okay, so, finally made it through that one, which just leaves, I believe, past and future and the consensus. And I will tackle those in the next episode because it's been going on for almost an hour. So, this has been Anashi Sasuke. This was, Spooky Scary Skeletons, the novella, and I will see y'all next time. Later.